You may be thinking, how do I start strength training and I don't get injured in the process? You just want to get stronger. You don't want to actually hurt yourself. The hip hinge is one of those things that can make or break you. It's one of the things that as a PT, I train people in so much, and it can get them out of injury or it gets them into injury. Find out why in this video. We're going to start with our upper pushes, our upper pulls. These are areas that can affect your neck, can affect your shoulders, can affect your upper back, and they matter so much in the function of us in everyday life. Because if you hurt your shoulder, then everything you do hurts with it. You don't move without moving your shoulder in day-to-day function, as you can even see with how much I'm moving my arm right now. When we're talking about our upper pushes, where we're pushing things away or pushing things away up here, one of the things that we want to think about is our shoulder blade mechanics in here. And so as we're doing maybe even like a plank where we're holding ourselves stable on the ground, we want to think about our shoulders kind of staying away from our ears and being nice and solid on our trunk. Now, we don't always want to think about holding our shoulder blades back like we've probably been told to do many times before. It's that when we're doing pushes, they actually come around your rib cage and push out. There's a muscle here called your serratus anterior. And what it does is it comes in between your shoulder blade and your ribs and attaches to the inside part of this shoulder blade. It keeps that in towards your ribs and also brings it around your body. We want to make sure we use this guy. It's one of the least used muscles when it comes to pushes that people make the mistake of not actually integrating and using. It's why we wing our shoulder blades, or our shoulder blades kind of come off of our ribs and flare. I don't know if you can see that right there. And it also affects how we integrate and use our pecs and integrate and use our upper traps here. Because whenever we don't actually use those guys, keep our shoulders down and pushing through our shoulder blades to get forward, is that we'll come up here and we'll actually tip our shoulder blades forward, and we'll use more of this guy, our upper trap muscle here, to help with the push and help with the push. We want to make sure we're integrating and using the stability of our shoulder blade to gain us more strength through our actual shoulders, triceps and biceps included in that. And so again, whenever you're doing pushes, like a plank or push up, think about keeping those shoulder blades down and making them push out around the rib cage with your shoulder blades as you're doing that push. Now, when we get into when we get into shoulder pulls, we are thinking about almost doing the opposite. So we reach out far, our shoulder blades come around our body, our shoulders are down as well, and then we're pulling and getting those shoulder blades to come back in more towards our spine as we're doing that pulling mechanic. Now, as we think about this pulling mechanic, we can bring our shoulder blades the closest possible that they can come to our spine, or we can keep them seated in next to our rib cage. That again uses that serratus anterior to bring that shoulder blade into the ribs and seat it in there. I call it seating it in because it pulls it in towards our ribs. And we don't get quite as much pull inward, but it makes us so much stronger because instead of just integrating and using the muscles between our shoulder blade and our spine, we're now integrating and getting more stability of it coming in close to our rib cage. And so we'll come in, but it won't actually come over where you see my shoulder blade coming out. It comes in and seats it in to the actual ribs as I'm doing my pull. And that gives us more strength and stability in our actual shoulders to do all these pull exercises and to help us with gaining strength functionally for any of the exercises or any of the moves that we need to do in daily life, and to help us with our strength of our shoulders as a whole. Especially as a woman, we have weaker arms, we have weaker shoulders, and getting these shoulder blade muscles going with our pulls is so critical for you. Next, let's talk about core engagement. Core engagement, oof, I can make an entire 3 videos just on this, so I'll try to keep it short for you. What we want to make sure we do is form a wall in our core and not suck in our core. And this goes into, we want to make ourselves a nice strong can. We don't want a dented can. If you think about smashing a soda can after you've drank it, or a beer can after you drink it, if you smash it in without denting a side, it's super hard. But if you pre-dent some of the sides, then you can smash it super easily. But we don't want to make ourselves be a dentable can or a dented can. We want to make ourselves be a nice, solid, stable can in our trunk, in our midsection. And so I want you to think about your breath. Your breath is a super important mechanism to help you engage your core. Take a deep breath in. Everything should relax a little bit more. Your belly should come out. Your chest should relax and probably rise. Your pelvic floor will lower and your back body will relax as well. Then breathe it out forcefully. You should feel everything kind of coming in together. Your pelvic floor raises, your abdominal wall comes in and straightens and tightens, and you should be able to poke your little fingers on it and feel stable in that. Your back body will now engage as well, and your ribs will come back inward and won't be as expanded because your intercostal muscles and your external obliques, which connect to your ribs, will tighten up in response. Take a deep breath out again, or inhale again, sorry. Inhale again, relax everything, and breathe out again forcefully. Feel that contraction happening. This is your core engagement. This is the ability to engage your stomach, engage your abs, engage your back body, engage your core as a whole while not sucking in your belly, no belly button to the spine. You're not tucking your tail right now, which is another mechanism of your abdominal muscles coming on, not your belly button to your spine one. That one's not the biggest fan of it, honestly. But this will help you get that engagement for your hip hinge, for your squat, which is what we're going to move into next. Now, as we move into our hip hinge, our deadlift, this is where we've gone over your upper pull, your upper push beforehand, because now you understand the mechanics of getting those shoulder blades down. You understand the mechanics of your core engaging. You understand how to pull, per se, with your arms in a nice elongated position. Now, as you're set up for this, your hip hinge, this is where you can start kind of in a standing position. You'll go down to your hands on your knees, your butt will shift back, and I want you to just kind of maintain that position. This is kind of like a butt out. You're potentially getting ready to dance. Somebody could potentially push you. You'd be able to have some more like stability there. And then I want you to kind of stripper booty or stick your butt out. And then I want you to tuck your tail all the way like you're a sad dog. I want you to go through those mechanisms with your hands on your knees, on your thighs. With this movement, you are learning pelvic tilt. This pelvic tilt, you should feel as you tuck your tail, your sad dog, your abs turn on a little bit more. As you do your stripper booty, then your back muscles turn on a little bit more. There will be a position in here where your back is more flat. That will be your Goldilocks position or your lovely position. It will feel good for you. Once you find that position, take your hands off of your knees, and now you can relax there. You can rest there. It's not too hard to hold this position. It's a little challenging because you're actually using muscles, but it shouldn't feel like it's stressful. It shouldn't feel like a strain. One thing that you don't want to do when you're in this is have your knees too far bent. We don't want to squat our hip hinge. We want it actually to come from our hips. Hip hinge. Make sense? And so when you're thinking about this, after you've taken your hands off your knees, if it doesn't feel right, then do a little bit of a tail tuck. See how that feels. Do a little bit of a stripper booty. See how that feels. Go back and forth again, that same pelvic tilt, and you'll find your position of comfort. This is your hip hinge. Now you can stand up, and then I want you to think about keeping that same back position and then going back down, coming back up, going back down. Another way that you can check yourself is you take a broomstick and you place it along your back. It should touch like the upper part of your butt, your mid back, and your head. As you go down into that position and back up, that's when you should feel those touch points all the way on all of those positions. If you start to flex your back or your upper back, then you will lift it up off of your low back or that kind of like upper butt crack position that it's supposed to touch. Don't force your broomstick to touch you. It should just naturally lay on your body. And this is a way of checking yourself. Am I doing my hip hinge properly or am I not? Then you can start adding some load to it and work on your good morning, your deadlift. For your squats, squats are a harder mechanism, but you can do it learning it from just squatting down to a surface and standing back up. I like to do this from a chair where you sit down on a chair, you stand back up from the chair, sit down on the chair, stand back up from the chair. And then you start going to where you just tap the chair and come back up. For your feet position in this, you want it to be about hip width apart, toes out a little bit, and then everybody is told to keep their chest upright in a squat. Well, if you don't have the trunk stability to keep you upright for a squat, then you will compensate and arch your low back and you will do a very poor squat. It will cause harm to your back and you won't be able to use your hips, your glutes, and your hamstrings to help you with this squatting mechanic, which you need to use those guys for this. And so don't try to keep your chest upright with this. Not yet. You're just getting started. It's okay. You're not super loaded up here. And so you can sit down and come back up, thinking mainly about your lower body and your core staying on that breath out to help you with this mechanic. As you get better at this, you can lower the chair or the support that you go down to, or you can take away it altogether and just squat down and come back up. Now, the goal, yes, is to get down to about 90 degrees of knee bend. But is that everything in the end all be all? When you not gain from doing shorter, you will gain from doing shorter and not going down all the way. You'll get there. And you'll do this if you go shorter and you don't have knee pain versus if you go down all the way and have knee pain, do the shorter. You're not helping yourself by causing yourself more pain. So do the shorter bits, mini squats, and work yourself up. You'll get stronger and you'll be able to squat lower. I hope this was super helpful. Check out some other videos that I have here of kettlebell squats, the hip hinge, things that you do wrong, everything like that. There's some other ones that I probably will pop up, but think about those. And I hope this helps you get started back into strength training. Bye, y'all.